Okay, I have been asked to build a little table, a bedside table. I've sketched out a couple of quick dimensions. I'm kind of gonna wing this one because well, I really shouldn't, but that's okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my legs to length out of 1x4 stock. And once I've done that, I'm next going to rip these into 2-inch wide strips and 1.5-inch wide strips, which I'll glue together to form the legs. Right here is when I made a bit of a mistake as I was clamping these together. You can see right there the legs slid a little bit. You can see them right there on the side, but for some reason I did not notice this until later when I was taking the legs, ungluing or taking the legs out of the clamps and looking at them, which you'll see in a little bit later in this video. Here I'm just getting the excess glue squeeze out off. And so here I am cutting some 45-degree angles on these pieces that are going to frame the tabletop itself. And now I've got sort of a circular saw guide cutting here that I'm going to trim a 12x12 tabletop out of a chunk of plywood that I've got. On the underside, so this will be the top of the table, and this will be the bottom. And now I'm just going to glue these pieces onto the outer side of the table. Okay, that's dried up for a while. Here's the tabletop. I want to sand down these little corners there a little bit, and the underside. That looks pretty good. So that is really unfortunate. I don't know how that happened, but that means that I effectively lost about 1/2 inch on the legs. And here I'm just cutting the legs back to a even length. I've labeled B and B on each piece that I want. So this distance is 13 3/8, so I'll cut that just a little bit shorter than that, maybe 13 1/4. That'll give me just a little bit of wiggle room. That will. Now I'm adjusting the table saw so that I can cut out a rabbet out of both of the side aprons to rest the bottom of the drawer on. Yep. And next I adjust the table saw to cut out the rest of the rabbet and get the depth right so I can cut off that last little piece of wood there. And then I proceed to screw it up by cutting the piece of wood in the same direction accidentally. And here I cut the rabbets out correctly. And next I've just got a 45-degree router head here, and I'm giving a nice bevel to the tabletop. I think that this turns out really nicely because the tabletop doesn't have any sharp corners. So I next decided to do the same thing to all of the legs, just down on the outside of the leg. And I'm just gluing the last of these pieces here on and clamping them into place. Clamping was a little awkward here, but I managed. So the next thing I did here is I took some 2x4s and actually just cut those into about maybe half an inch wide pieces and about 3 inches in height, and that became the drawer sides. Here I'm gluing a piece of 1/4 inch plywood to the bottom of the underside of the table, which is where the drawer will slide onto, which will hold the drawer in place. I'm rabbiting a section out of the back of the underside of the drawer here. What this is going to do is two things. It's going to let the bottom of the drawer rest in front of it, and it's also going to block that little piece of plywood that you just saw in the previous clip from showing when you're looking at the front of the table. And here I'm just drilling the holes for the drawer handle. And now it's time to glue and nail the drawer together. The nails will just hold it in place while the glue dries. Now I get to glue the top of the table on, and once I've done this, I will start staining with a stain and polyurethane mix. Of course, what I also don't show here is all of the sanding. I sanded everything from 80 to 220 grit, which made the tabletop really smooth and the legs nice and smooth. And so here I start staining. And here you can see the grain of the wood raised after the first stain, so a couple more coats of stain with sanding in between. Okay, so I've put on the stain and polyurethane, American walnut, 3 or 4 coats. Looks really pretty. And the last thing I'm doing is just adding some paste wax in the bottom of the drawer, and then I'll put it on the bottom of the drawer, and then I'll be done.